I'm here to present you and talk about the story of Zerion, why we started building that, and what are the plans of moving forward. All right, so first I want to reiterate on the traditional financial system, but mainly from my personal experience interacting with it. So I would call myself a DeFi native. So I don't have a credit score in the US. I wasn't approved a credit card both in Russia, where I'm from, and neither in the US. So that kind of shows about the exclusivity of this traditional financial system. We were also declined to use TransferWise because we need to transfer money from our bank accounts between different countries. They don't work with crypto companies. So this is where we are, and that's quite sad. Talking about the expensive stuff, so traditional financial system using the bank, you probably have tried making a wire transfer, and that's like $35 plus an enormous fees on top of that. So this is why we don't want to spend too much time just paying our banks to build the skyscrapers and stuff like that. And the last bit is that banks are inefficient. So that's quite clear because right now, like looking at DeFi in comparison to the traditional financial system, you can have settlement in 15 seconds versus 3 days for settling just a simple wire transfer. In contrast, let's talk a bit about DeFi. DeFi, first of all, is inclusive. So we were able to make, whenever you get like a USDC payment, you can instantly send it somewhere else. There is no requirements and no borders, essentially. And yeah, it's available to anyone with internet connection. Efficient, that's also quite clear. We can see how all these financial tools can be settled in like a few seconds. So yeah, that's all right. So, and the last bit about DeFi, it's composable. So all the financial primitives of DeFi, you can layer them on top of each other and mix and match them to get new financial tools, as we can see with the RDAI or CDAI and other things. But the problem right now with DeFi, because it's so new, it's very hard to use. I don't know how many of you have tried opening a CDP through CDP portal. Can you do a show of hands? Yeah, okay. Most of the people did, and I guess the experience was not great. And also managing that and looking at that mammoth, that's kind of scary. And to the right, you can see how it's a typical approve on MetaMask, and that's if I were to show that to my friends, they would freak out and just leave forever. So to be more specific in terms of the problems with DeFi, there's a steep learning curve. I think there was a Medium article just recently how there's a huge gap between what people think in general about crypto and what is actually happening right now with DeFi. So we kind of all are in this guru of DeFi realm, and then most of the people outside, they don't even know that stablecoins exist, and they think that the volatility of crypto is never going to go away. The second thing about DeFi is right now, if you're lucky to install MetaMask and use it, you can probably access most of the DeFi things. But if you are using any other wallet, you'll have hard times plugging that into all different interfaces, and that's a very complicated thing to do, especially as this number of financial primitives grows. And lastly, that creates an advantage for users because they don't know exactly are they earning enough, for instance, on their lending. So should they earn more if they move their money to another protocol, and yeah, what are the risks associated with all of these protocols? So that's why we need a single place where you can access DeFi. And oops, sorry, yeah, the slides were a bit cut off. So this is where we are, where we position ourselves as a company. So Zerion we want to directly interact with users. So right now on this slide, you can see the evolution of different like layers in the space. So Bitcoin was just a payments layer and transfer layer. The second layer is Ethereum, which is programmable money or smart contracts. And then I would first define that there was an emergence of stable coins that brought us to what we are right now, which is DeFi. And we want to be we want to be the last layer in this stack. So if more protocols appear on top of each other, we'll still be serving the users. A bit of a background on us. We've been actually in the space. The company was founded in around 2016. We were mainly doing helping other people with the smart contracts, and the market was moving into the ICO direction. We helped a lot of companies to raise funds from the technical perspective. So we had a lot of experience building decentralized apps and things that are working with blockchain, specifically Ethereum. We are a decentralized team of 7 people across like Lithuania, Russia, US, and like I'm now in London. And yeah, we are all pretty much DeFi native, so very young. And DeFi was, like for me, for instance, the first deposit ever was through Compound. The credit I took, of course, Maker. I haven't really used it much though, but that's how it is. And this is true for all the founders for sure, and for at least like half of the employees. When we were designing the product and thinking what we should be, how the product should be built, we had a few compromises to think about, and the first one was custodial versus non-custodial. And we have decided that we will stay non-custodial for as long as we can. And this is simply because we don't like the direction where Coinbase is taking the market. So they act as like just one single place to access the whole crypto ecosystem, but users don't really own what they have. Second compromise that we had was being stateless versus stateful. So that's, for instance, whenever you interact with DApps, especially in early days, this DApp would ask you to connect MetaMask every time again and again. And that's something that we didn't like at all, because we thought that there is so much value in actually building and personalizing your experience with a DApp. And that's why I wouldn't even call Zerion a DApp. So we made 3 design goals that we're basing what we're building. So the first is that a user should always own their assets, so we are not planning to compromise on that. Second, we don't want to introduce any additional friction, and we want to remove friction as much as possible when interacting with DeFi protocols. And lastly, we want to protect people's privacy, so we try not to, like, as much as we can, we try not to collect any information about the user. And we believe that privacy for decentralized finance is very important, even though it's a bit hard right now with public blockchains. And we are constantly looking for solutions for like making private transfers. So yeah, here we are with the product. Looks like a few people here use it already. I'll quickly jump through the features. Yeah, we decided that we want to support as many wallets as possible, because we think that people should decide on the level of trustlessness and security that they want to have with their wallets. We support Wallet Connect, so that's how you can use essentially like almost like 90% of wallets on mobile to use Zerion. You can, of course, manage your CDP, and that's a pretty sophisticated management. So you can track all the liquidation prices and collateralization ratios. You will get a notification if your CDP is about to get liquidated. So we take care of that. And yes, we support as many CDPs as you want, including Instapp CDPs. For lending, right now we only support Compound, yeah, you can earn up to 10%. So it's very similar to your experience on Compound, but it will track within your portfolio and all your assets. Lastly, you can trade through Uniswap, and yeah, that's how you can manage your portfolio and then do any swaps in a few clicks. That's quite easy. I'm going to show that later in a live demo. Yeah, recently, if anyone has seen, so we have launched an iOS app, and that's right now it's purely read-only. So it allows you to track your DeFi portfolio. Whatever you would see in the Zerion on the web, you can see in the iOS app. You can do it on the go. Later on, we plan to add support for actually making the transactions from the iOS app, and that will be a fully synchronized experience with the web. Yeah, so far, I just want to share some numbers. So we processed over 9 million in Compound deposits, which was very exciting for us, actually. We didn't expect that much traction, even because we're still in beta. Over $15 million were sent through Zerion, just like sending functionality. And trading volume was about $1 million in total through Uniswap. So yeah, I was pretty excited. We had a lot of feedback, and customers seem to like what we do, and that's why we want to listen to as much as feedback as possible. So yeah, if you have any ideas, just shoot us an email or write us anywhere. Oops. Yeah, so I kind of want to quickly iterate about how Zerion works, and I just want to emphasize that we don't have yet our smart contracts, and we directly integrated with all the smart contracts that for the protocols, and I think that's it's a great thing for DeFi, because anyone can do that without asking permission of these protocols. So looking at an example of Uniswap, we'll use our backend to fetch some data like charts and prices and icons for all the assets that you see, and we'll send that to the front end. Later, the front end will ask the Uniswap smart contract and ABIs to create a transaction and fetch exchange rates for the amount that was inputted. And lastly, it will send a transaction directly to the node, so there is no backend interaction whatsoever when sending a transaction. And in the future, we actually plan to have the version of Zerion that will fully work without the backend. It will be reduced in functionality, like you won't see the chart of performance chart, but you'll be able to see all the assets, and you'll be able to make transactions still. Yeah, in terms of the plans that we have in the future. Oh, actually, let me switch to the demo first, and I'll walk you through a bit how it all works, and then we'll go to the next available features that we want to release. Yep. Let me just zoom in a bit. Yeah, so this is Zerion. So you can see the historical performance of your portfolio. Here you can see all the assets available on your wallet. And I connected MetaMask right now. So here you would see your CDPs, and it supports as many CDPs as you want. And here are the compound deposits with interest earned tracking. Here we have recently integrated with 3box. So if you have a 3box account, you will see it already in Zerion popping up. So you can also rename the wallets. So for instance, I can call this MetaMask and save it. Here we spend a lot of time actually on revamping the history. So history, we're very proud of it actually. So you can see how, is it okay to see, like do you see it? All right, so here you can see how we parse every transaction that was associated with your address into something meaningful, for instance, deposits on Compound, or receiving tokens or withdrawals from Compound, and other actions like interactions with CDPs, making trades on Uniswap, etc. This is, I think, right now the most outdated interface, but we started with this. We actually are planning to release a new version of that pretty soon, but that's an interface to interact with MakerDAO CDPs. So I can, yeah, so you can see this is my Instapp CDP, and this is my normal one. I can, for instance, withdraw my ETH. Okay, so let's do something. Let me sign that. Yep, so transaction would be here. It will show as withdrawal from Maker, and yeah, it will take a bit, and I'll get a notification from both MetaMask and Zerion, so you can subscribe to see all the transfers that are both incoming and outgoing, and all the interactions with your wallet. On the lend side, you can see DAI here. You can also withdraw some money here. For instance, let me do withdrawal. That's all quite simple, and it will go again directly to the smart contract of Compound. And yeah, that's an exchange interface. I won't make another transaction for that. I guess you understand how it works. I also want to show you how Wallet Connect wallet can be added to that. Let me do that quickly. So here's my Trust wallet, for instance. Can you see it? Yeah. So I would open Wallet Connect, and I need to click on Connect New Wallet. Mobile wallet, I'll scan the QR code and press connect. Oops. Yep. So that opens a session here. And you can see that this is my Trust wallet. I can now have it. It's going to stay here for a long, till the moment you remove it. So this is Trust wallet, and I can see all my assets here as well, and I can make transactions from it directly. So for instance, I can do a send. 1 second. Oops. Turned into. Let me copy that. So if I press on the send, let me do 0.01, I click send. On the phone you would see confirm transaction, and you can send. So that's how you can integrate all the wallets that you have already, and it also works in any DApp browser. Yeah, so that's mainly it for the demo. The last one thing, we have just introduced MoonPay, so you can purchase cryptocurrency or stable coins through Zerion directly. So if you're a new user, you can create your account with just a phone number. You can show it to your friends and then ask them to go and buy some Ether, for instance. Yeah, they can do it with just their credit card. It doesn't work in the US yet, but it will be soon. Right now it's available in UK and many other European countries as well. All right, so let's go back to the presentation. So in terms of our next plans, we have listened to what users were asking for mainly, and we saw that Uniswap pools was one of the most requested features. Among our users, we have about 500 the ones who are holding at least any Uniswap tokens, and we want to provide the best experience for them to manage their pools. The second most popular request was set tokens, and we saw recently that they had quite a bit of traction, and we will plan to show them in your portfolio as well. And the last thing that I'm very excited about, but I don't think when it's coming, I don't really know. So UMA, Universal Market Access Protocol for synthetic assets. This is, I think, will drive a next wave of newcomers to the space, because you'll be able to purchase anything from like S&P 500 to Apple stock eventually through Zerion and through other interfaces too. Yeah, and we want to, now as we have the verticals like borrowing, trading, and lending installed, we'll start expanding on the protocols that are integrated. So DYDX will be available for lending and Fulcrum as well. And yeah, if you have any other ideas, you can send us a note. Last thing is we have decided on the direction of going into multi-sig accounts versus proxies. So we think that in terms of usability, that provides a better experience for new users mainly, because right now, like whenever you have a MetaMask account, for instance, and just a private key, it's a bit hard to batch transactions. You can do that only through the proxy, but that at the same time introduces problems like you need to hold custody of your funds, and you need to know, like you need to have Ether to interact with everything. So we want to get rid of that eventually for new users, and that's going to be for multi-sig accounts, and that would also support business accounts. So if you are managing your, let's say, ICO money on a multi-sig account, you'll be able to manage that in Zerion. We already did that, so this is it. Thank you, guys. So if you have any questions, just let's jump into that. Oh yeah.
I'll hand it around.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. Is it on? It's on? Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks for the presentation. Plans for monetization?
Yeah, that's a pretty often I'm asked that. So we currently are VC funded, and we plan to do an announcement about that soon. At the moment, we only have ideas in terms of how we're going to monetize that. It's not going to be charging on top of the protocol's commission. So we believe that we should be known for providing the best experience and not for taking a cut on the services. So after that, I think the most promising direction we will take will be on the premium features for Zerion. So if you're managing a lot of money through us, it's natural that for some features that are highly requested by these professional users will be paid. So that's the current plan. Anyone else? Oh.
Thanks for the presentation. You mentioned you do some personalization and you're stateful. Where do you keep state and what are the type of features that you personalize? Thank you.
So currently, the personalization that is available is 3-box integration, and also you can see all the wallets, so they will be stored locally in your browser. So we right now do not associate everything that you have, all the wallets that you have with like a single ID. We don't have that. So that's the only thing. So for instance, with pending transactions, they are also tracked on the front end. Whenever you make a transaction, it will be in the local storage, and we don't really know about it. So that's how it is right now. And in the future, I think we'll try to keep most of the things on the front end or in something like 3-box for personal data, that you can, like, whenever you want to remove anything that Zerion knows about you, you can go to 3-box and just delete it. Yeah, that's the plan. For buying crypto, we have KYC, but that's the third-party provider. We are not touching that data at all.
I'm curious to hear, who do you think your current kind of user is, target user, and kind of where do you want to go, and where do you see the future users coming from?
That's a good question.
Well, maybe to iterate, because you said like accessibility, and you mentioned some examples that you personally experienced. Is this more kind of a global accessibility thing, or more speculators?
So first, talking about the current customer, we kind of define that as cryptocurrency native people. So they already have some crypto, but they haven't really touched DeFi. So that's a pretty large group already, and I think onboarding them is the first step. Because right now I don't see, I tried like selling that to my friends, and they're very suspicious about like 11% on compound on average. So it's gonna take time. It should be bulletproof before we onboard like everyone, essentially, just to earn from your savings. So in terms of where we're going, I think that it's gonna be a lot about access to financial instruments. So mainly coming from Russia, and I've seen that everywhere essentially. I've traveled quite a few countries. People don't get the same privilege to like just go on Robinhood and buy whatever they want from any country. So I think the demand for that is already there, but there are not many tools, or they are very expensive at the moment. Yeah, I think that's what's going to drive a lot of adoption to this space. It's over there.
I can do it without the mic.
Oh, no, cool.
Yeah, don't forget to follow us on Twitter.
Okay, thanks.
This is where the news.
So my question was, you may or may not have said this, but I thought you sort of said it in passing, that you might have tokenized shares accessible through the platform. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, could you talk about how you intend to bring that to life?
Yeah, so the current path is rely on synthetic assets. So this is already a working thing. It has some complications in terms of compliance with, like, for instance, US regulations. So that's in the works, and I don't think it's going to be available to everyone right away. But for many countries it will, I think. And if you look up universal market access, they do total return swaps on synthetic assets. So you can do things like gold. So the only things that you need is to track you need to have an oracle that tracks the price of the asset, and that's it. Okay,
but would you be holding the shares, and then I own a token that corresponds to a share that you almost have in custody?
You will own a synthetic asset, so it's not a real share, but this is similar to, for instance, in a few fintech apps. Whenever you buy something, it's not necessarily that you own a share. It depends on like the company, but that's normally the case. And in the future, so if there's a lot of demand, for instance, for a certain type of shares, we can start actually doing that and shipping that to customers.
Thank you.
I'm interested to hear your opinion on, or how you think about simplicity versus depth of features for your users. And as you evolve, right now you're focusing on crypto native, but how do you see the simplicity in the UI change as you introduce other non-crypto users?
Yeah, so we actually try to make the interface as friendly as possible. So we always did that, and we are planning to continue doing that. There's a fine balance between power users who want to see a lot of different protocol stacked and complicated financial tools like SET protocol or Uniswap pools. But I think it's first a matter of education, and second is like we want to respond to the requests of the users. I think over time it's going to be simplified more and more. Right now, like we're iterating ourselves on every single tab all the time, and we try to make it easier for non-crypto users to see. So that happened, for instance, with like Compound, and it's quite easy for non-crypto to understand what's going on there. Yeah, and that's the same going to happen to CDPs. We're planning a redesign. I've said that that will look very simple for the non-crypto users. All right, so no more questions? Thank you, guys.